Me too.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Today is one of those conversations that expands what we're doing in the Legacy Collaborative. And we've always been international, and we have such a special treat of my dear, dear friend Lucy Parker as our guest today for the very first session that we're going to do on global real estate trends so that you understand how to support your clients, information you can share on your social media, things that you should keep in mind when you are helping them build the lives that they want with their freedom and having an expansive real estate portfolio, or even decide what country they want to live in for primary. Inside the Legacy Collaborative, since it launched this year, my commitment is simple: to surround you with the kind of leaders who change the way that you understand the world. And today you get to meet someone who has been a part of the vision team for the Legacy Collaborative since it launched and who's a dear friend of mine. We actually met in South Africa many years ago, and I was there as a guest speaker for a big conference that Lucy was a participant at. But as soon as we met, we had so much fun together. We actually got to explore the country as a tourist together with a couple of other friends of ours. We explored, we laughed, we talked about how different words mean different things. And that was so funny to just die laughing at. And we shared stories. And I really have always been enamored with her energy, with her intelligence, with her enthusiasm for life, and really with the way that she cares about people in a really special, unique way. And if you haven't already met her, you're not going to want to miss this conversation, and you need to know Lucy Parker. So we've talked about a lot of shifts in business and strategy, and thankfully later Lucy actually was one of my favorite coaching clients, if I'm allowed to have a favorite, because she shifted so many areas of her life and business so quickly during the time frame that we were working together. Yes, she is an amazing, coachable leader and already had a huge impact in the world before we met. She's just super special to me. She's an incredible aunt. She pours into children in different countries. She works directly with orphanages, helping kids build confidence, learn skills, and come up with really new ways for them to potentially learn. And she trains agents all around the world on global referrals, international migration. She trains on YouTube lead generation, wealth flows, and cross-border opportunities. And even before the Legacy Collaborative launched this year, she was one of its first champions globally in our first conversation to talk about it. And she has had conversations about the Legacy Collaborative in rooms that there's no way I would ever be in. So twice a year, we're going to bring you a conversation around global migration and real estate trends. And Lucy is the one person that I asked, and the only person I asked to be a part of this conversation with me. And I'm just so glad that all of you are here for the first ever Legacy Collaborative Global Trends conversation. So thank you, Lucy, for being here.
Thank you, Saundra. My gosh, I mean, like, how do I follow that? I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to know you. And from the first day we met, you probably noticed earlier, everybody, I was giggling because we literally had a day full of laughs. It was the funniest, most memorable day. And Saundra and I just had an instant connection. And I have so much respect for this warrior businesswoman. I mean, Saundra, you're doing it at a high level. Everybody here in the collective group, shall we say. I just want to say that you've chosen the right mentors to have around you, and you're going to go far with Saundra. So
Well,
I'm
thank you for
excited
that.
to be here.
Thank you. So, why don't you share a little bit of your story and what led you into being the expert in global real estate?
Sure. Okay. So how long have we got? So I'm from the UK, so I'm English. I have lived in over four continents and I've traveled to 81 countries. So I'm on a mission to see every country on the planet before I die. I'm 50, so I have a way to go, but I'll get there. I speak three languages, so I'm trilingual in French and Spanish. I understand Portuguese, Italian, and a little bit of it Arabic, shwe shwe. So I have lived in the Gulf for 19 years. So first in Oman, which is the Sultanate of Oman next door, and then here in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates for 13 years. And I actually started my real estate career in the south of France. And I did it because before I was a real estate agent, I was an international tour guide. So I would take people just like you on adventure holidays, literally, you name it. And I was taking you, whether it was hiking in Argentina or tennis holidays in Mallorca or climbing a frozen waterfall in Slovenia or, up the Great Wall of China, you name it. I've sort of been leading tours all over. What I've grasped from that is how to understand many different cultures, many different nationalities. And I guess without even realizing realizing it has really led me to be perfectly located here in Dubai, which is this global mecca, melting pot of every nationality now descending upon us to buy real estate. And I couldn't be placed in a better location. And because of that, I'm very curious. I've always been curious, as Saundra knows, but I'm very curious about why people move to different countries, why they choose certain types of properties or areas, and why, the Americans go to Portugal, for example, but the British come to Dubai. So, I've shared all that many, many times. And so Saundra, obviously said, Lucy, will you share a bit more about, your global outlook and the trends that you're seeing? So very happy to do that. And here we are.
Oh,
And
you
shall
just
I
make
say
it
about
all
Keller
sound really
Williams?
simple.
Sorry, I should say the real estate part. So I've been in Keller Williams real estate. That's probably the most important part, how I met Saundra through Keller Williams. For 10 years, I was brought in as the first team leader of Keller Williams Dubai. So my role was literally to interview, to recruit, and to train agents to their top. And then after 3 years, I stepped back into production and I'm now the top agent in the market center. I've been a capper for the last 4 years and I hope to cap again this year, the same year. I'm just waiting for one more sale to come through. And I'm in Gary Keller's top Global 20 mastermind as well. I have spoken on stage about luxury real estate and global real estate. I've been invited to speak at family reunions around the world online. I was doing Slovenia's. And of course, as Saundra said, I've been training. So all of my real estate business. So I am just like you watching. I am a realtor through and through. I do help people succeed in their business, but ultimately I'm out on the streets selling, and guess how I do it? Through my YouTube channel. So all of my business comes from YouTube. So you can check that out. I've been doing it 6 years and I don't have a leads problem at all. I do have a closing problem because I just need more people to help me. So that's where I'm at in terms of who am I.
Well, you make everything sound so simple and easy.
No,
And one
well,
of the
yeah.
things that you didn't say is that you actually were on the very first panel for international luxury real estate at a family reunion that happened in the United States. Because
Oh, yes.
before that conversation happened, when we were coaching together, they didn't even have international people represented on the
True.
luxury stages in the US. That
That
has
that
been
was way
something.
back. You're
Yes,
right. I'd
yes.
forgotten that.
So, what do you think is actually driving the movement of people around the world right now, if you had to
Yeah.
say?
Well, I think you have to start with the macroeconomics, which, for those of you that are perhaps not clear what that means, that's things like, tax incentives, the strength of the currency, where inflation's at, interest rates, the cost of living, and that really in itself is the pushing factor for why people move, migrate. And so, imagine if you're in the US and suddenly you can go somewhere where your money's going to go further, you're probably going to look again. Or, you're in the US and then suddenly you get to another country where there is no tax and you don't have to pay tax. Now, for most of you watching, that's probably not the case because once you're a US passport, you pay tax forever. But for us Brits, once we leave the UK, we never have to pay tax again. So for us, it is a massive incentive to leave our country and suddenly not have to pay 50 to 57% in tax, as are all other nationalities on the planet. I think it's only the American passport and the Eritrea passport that have to pay tax till the day they die, no matter where you are. But going through more macroeconomics, think about your currency. If your currency is strong and the US dollar is, and then you go to a country where you get more for your money, then you can buy a bigger property, you can put more children into better education, you can pay for better health. So these are all factors why, the macroeconomics is so important, why people are leaving one area of the world to go to another. And, just for example, $1 million here in Dubai will get you a really lovely home, 3 bedrooms with, we call it a maid's room. I know it doesn't sound very PC to you here, but it's so installed in me. I've got to remember that language is quite strange, but a nanny, like a helper's room, because it's pretty small. But you'll get that with a garden for $1 million, and Dubai's not cheap. So they still say for a global city like Dubai, our prices are 2.5, 3 times cheaper than they would be, say, in hubs like New York or London or Singapore. So, that is people are watching on and very interested.
Well, thank you for sharing the specifics about Dubai. I think it's interesting that when you think about the currency in the United States or the UK and what kind of and living that you can get for $1 million, it's so interesting to be able to compare those.
Yeah.
And also, how many people would you say buy additional properties in Dubai and it not be the primary country that they live in?
Now, that's a really trick question, actually, because there are two ways to answer that, Saundra. Answer one is that a lot of people will buy a second property, but guess what? It's not their holiday home. They're actually buying it because it's more favorable tax-wise to buy it and live overseas, but they hold on to their home back home just in case, and also for sentimental reasons, or just to always have their foot in the door, back home next to elderly family and relatives. So it could be that they're buying their home overseas as the main residence, but keeping the original one. So it's not always probably what you were thinking when you were asking me that question as like a second holiday home. Do you see?
Yeah,
So yeah,
thank you.
there's quite a few layers to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I know a lot of people that are watching this now and will be watching it in the future will be considering how do they help their clients that they are in relationship with be knowledgeable about how they should expand their portfolio, both in life experience and wealth building.
Yeah.
So it's just super important to understand that. Thank you for that. So when it comes to tax and wealth protection, which is a topic we're on, you track the patterns in a way that few people do. Which countries people are leaving, what regions they're being pulled into for tax and wealth protection. So can you just talk about the details of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the example which is most applicable. I can't really give the example of the USA because you guys are always going to pay tax, right? So, giving the example of the UK, because obviously I know it most, the Brits are predominantly going to tax-free countries. So we are coming here to the UAE, we're going to Cyprus, we're going to Malta, we're going to Panama. Panama isn't right. Sorry, Panama is the Americans. And places like Monaco tax free, right? But say, for example, you're South Americans, then, for you, tax free may also be the same kind of countries because there is no tax. To just give you an example, when you buy a property in Dubai, there's no property tax. There's no income tax on your salary. There's no sales tax. There is literally no tax. And I have to say that and spell it out like that because people actually don't believe me. So you watching this might be like, well, she doesn't mean that tax and that tax, surely. I really do. So, yeah, I mean that's the best example. It's not always for tax reasons though, Saundra. I would say that, actually the next one that comes to mind for me that I'm seeing more and more, sadly, in this world is because of crime and safety. And that's actually now overtaken as a driving force of migration more than tax. And, I can give examples of, for example, I had a very high net worth client. She's Brazilian French, he's British, living in the south of France next to Dodi Al Fayed's old house, north of Saint-Tropez. So a really exclusive area. And essentially, they said to me they own two Ferraris, massive mansion, security guards and everything. They'd been burgled 3 times. They'd had their Ferraris scratched. And, at that level of wealth. And by the way, this man came from nothing. So he has grafted and hustled and whatever the word you use in the US that's the right word. I don't want to
No,
use the wrong word.
hustle is correct. Yes.
He's worked really hard for his money and now he can't enjoy it. So he was absolutely influenced by, somewhere like the UAE having zero crime and that he can drive those cars and he can put his wife in Chanel and send his boys to the best schools and have them top mobiles and they're not going to get stolen out of their hands. So, again, UK is really dangerous now in London if you're walking near Harrods and, the really nice fancy labeled shops. There are people watching you, from outside. They're watching to see when you're having dinner at a restaurant, what watch are you wearing? And, come and mug you, or even worse, to rip off that watch or hold you at knife point. And these are the streets of London, and it's really worrying. And I've never seen that before. So that is a massive driving force. And, in the US, I would imagine it is no different. I mean, I've definitely been in the US in some cities, like, and I did not even feel safe walking 1 block as a woman on my own. I mean, that's shocking to me. And so, I've seen a lot of the US population moving to Portugal, where it's much calmer and it's safer and life is more relaxed. And, but there are other reasons why Americans are moving to Portugal as well, so we can go into those. But hopefully that answers, that other reason why, which is obviously security and crime.
That is a really big conversation all over the world. It's interesting to hear an example of another country outside of our own because we all just live in our own little bubbles of the community we're in, I
Yeah.
think, even when we see global news, because there's so many examples of things. So why would you say, I know you've shared with me before that there's no crime there. What do you think causes there not to be any crime and for people to treat each other in a kinder way where in Dubai?
Do you know, that's such a good question. Essentially, you cannot be here if you don't have a visa. So you're either going to be here as a tourist, which means you've got a stamp in your passport and you're only here for a certain amount of days. You know, the airport e-gates have clocked you in when you arrived and they clock you out when you depart. And if you're a day late or an hour late, you pay a fine. So they know who's in and out. Then everyone like us residents, we have a residency visa or we have a visa attached to owning a property or because we're an investor. And again, we have an ID, we have a barcode, we have a QR code. Everything is watched, but not watched in the sense of, oh my God, I can't do anything, but it's all regulated very, very highly. There's no illegal immigration. Like that just doesn't happen. And the UK is so bad. I mean, I know in the US as well, but the UK is so bad for illegal immigration. It's got, there's people hiding in vans crossing the Channel Tunnel from France to England, hiding under vans and lorries and, arriving and then, they're refugees and they get status. So we don't have anything like that in the UAE. And then, the next thing is that it's a zero tolerance. So there is no alcohol allowed unless you're in a hotel restaurant or in a bar attached to a hotel for an alcohol license. You won't see any homeless. There is not such a thing as homeless because as per Islam, one of the pillars of Islam is shelter thy neighbor. So you would always shelter anyone that doesn't have a home. Like you would not think to leave anyone outside. It doesn't happen. And so I love that. That's very respectful. And then, if you are a foreigner, because you have to imagine that 85% of this country are not from here. So I'm not from here. I'm an expatriate. I'm not an Emirati. I'm not a local. So the locals make up about 15%, imagine. So that means that 85% of us have come here with documents and with paper, otherwise we'd be out. We cannot go broke here, we cannot go bankrupt here because there's no social services, so we would be out. And so it's very black and white and it works very, very effectively.
Got it. Thank you for all those details. That's super helpful because I've heard you speak about that before and I was curious
Yeah.
how that's created and how people genuinely take care of each other. What is the biggest surprise when families land in places like Dubai or Japan? What do you think their biggest surprises are in differences from, say, the US or the UK?
Well, everyone can't believe how clean it is. There's no rubbish anywhere, and everything is done like the trees are manicured and all the landscaping is perfect. The grass is cut. There's an abundance of labor here because, we have a lot of labor that's come over from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, and for them to come here and work, by the way, is also changing their lives because although they're earning a lot less than what we would earn, they in themselves are taking a lot of that money back home to support families that otherwise would have nothing. So, it's a trigger on effect at different levels of income because obviously you can live for a lot less in Bangladesh, right? So, yeah, I mean, everything is done very fast. Buildings go up overnight here. And then, the other thing I think is different is everything is easy. I'm going to make you laugh here when I tell you, you can order your car to be filled up with petrol at night while you're sitting in your sofa. They'll come outside to your house anywhere in the world, like anywhere in the city. It's on an app and you can order Cafu to come and fill up my petrol tank because you've run out of petrol. You haven't got time to drive out to a petrol station, but you need to fill that tank up. Can you imagine? So
Or a gas
everyone,
station.
yeah, gas station. But everyone is just very efficient. I don't get takeaway very much. I probably do takeaway twice a year. I'm very rare. But most people here do a lot of takeaway. Like, everything. I remember when I broke my ankle, I'm not joking. I sent a message to go downstairs to get walking sticks and a wheelchair. And they delivered up to my apartment walking sticks and a wheelchair when I broke my ankle. Like there is nothing you can't order in Dubai. Everything is fast and efficient. If you have, we have so many like nannies come here. So everybody has a nanny. We call it like a maid or a cleaner. And you can have a driver here and you don't need to be the uber wealthy. In England, if you had a driver, you'd be considered very, very wealthy. And I'm sure it's the same in the US. But here, it's quite normal for you to be able to afford a driver. And they'll literally drive you wherever you want. I mean, so life is very easy and stress-free. I mean, yes, you've got to have money, but you don't have to have a lot of money. You can be an average earner and have those services.
Okay, thank you for describing that. It's so interesting to think about that they were able to help you even without you having anyone living in your home when you hurt your
Yeah,
ankle and how quickly
I
that
know.
happened. One thing I will
Yeah,
say, and this is not related to international real estate, is I think that people don't consider how amazing it is to have a driver and how doable it is and how much dollar per hour you could get back if you weren't the one physically driving.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that people should have one sooner than they do if they're running businesses, but that's just a personal
yeah.
perspective. This part fascinates me. I loved that this was one of your responses when I said, what should we talk about today? And you shared how families are now moving for personalized AI-driven education. And you talked about how that's impacting different experiences for children and education. So can you talk about the AI for education examples that you gave?
Yeah, sure. So, schooling is really, really important. In fact, when clients are coming to me to buy real estate, now I have to literally consult them on which school, because I tell them there's no point buying the house till we know which school your kids are at, because the traffic is so bad. By the way, that is the one thing that's bad in Dubai. It's the only thing. So, because traffic is so bad, nobody wants to spend hours in the day doing the school run every day, right? Four times, they're back, they're back. So now, once I educate my clients on that, they're like, okay, help me with the schools first. So, of course, I've got to know the best schools. And our latest school, that believe it or not, was built from start to finish in 5 months. A brand new school for over 1,000 students, is the number one school for AI in Dubai. It's called the SRI GEMS. GEMS, you can Google it. And it's the first AI school in the region. And essentially, because one of my close friends' kids will go there, she said it's amazing. She said a little son of 7. So there's AI that, when we think of AI, we think they're giving a little like iPad and they're playing computer games or something. That's not what AI means. What it's actually doing is adding value to the parents and the teachers, not the kids yet, but it will come back to the kids. And the value is that the AI is analyzing how they work. So when they read a book, how quickly they read a page. Do they read from left to right? Which angle? Like, it analyzes everything, and it's a personal experience. And that's what AI education is becoming. So, what they want to achieve, the aim of the school is that every child will come out of the school with their strength. It's because we're not all the same and we shouldn't all be clubbed the same. So, if your child's playing football, then there are VR cameras watching how your child runs across the pitch and at what speed and at what angle they're kicking the ball, and how can they be helped and trained and coached on that better. So this is the marvel of AI, and it's just beginning. We're only at the beginning, but from my point of view, I don't know about the US, but there's nothing like this in the UK. So we're way ahead, and that in itself is attractive to parents. If they've got the money, they're having children, they don't want to be in a country with crime, they're going to come here and put their kids in this top school and give their children the best experience in education. Why not?
Well, I love that you're describing that, and I like the how advanced it is. What I would say is, how would you recommend if someone here is working to help a client have enough knowledge for them to make a wise choice on additional countries that they're going to invest in or live in? What would be the
Yeah.
process for that, just to make it simple?
To make it simple, it would probably be, first of all, I would assume the client has come to them saying, we want to move overseas, but we don't know where to move, correct? Because there's no point, taking someone out of the US if they have no idea and no desire to leave the US. So you've got to have somebody that's motivated. So if somebody were to come to one of the agents here, or somebody watching this, to say, look, help me, where do I move in the world? Then my questions would be, well, why do you want to move? What industry are you and your other half in? Do you have children? What kind of, it's quite a personal question, but you're going to have to ask their net worth. And do they have family overseas? Back to their motivations. Why? Now, some of the questions probably, there's a way to ask this. I mean, I just ask directly, but I know in the US sometimes you all kind of get a bit awkward about asking nationalities and where people are really from. But I'm very direct, because quite frankly, it is a question. It is important, and why not? I have no problem you asking me where I'm from. And if I say I'm from Europe, you can say, well, where exactly? I don't have a problem with that. So I will always ask my clients. So for example, let's give you an example. Say I've got, a client in Canada that wants to move to Dubai. So I will ask that client, well, where are you from? They'll say Canadian, but I can see their name is an Arab name. So I will say, but your name is Arab, so where's that name originating from? They'll be like, oh, well, actually, I'm Lebanese. So I'm like, oh, okay, so actually, I'm assuming You want to be closer to home, to Lebanon. They, yes, yes. But you see, a lot of clients won't offer that information if you don't ask the question and dig deeper. And a lot of people are very shy and nervous about digging deeper in case it's seen as, not politically correct. Well, I think that's rubbish. I think in this day and age, we're all big enough and professional enough that we can ask them in a way that is really about helping them and adding value and ensuring we match them to the right zone of the world. I do it every single day. Like literally every single day, I will ask that question. So, and I've never had any issues. And for anyone that has sort of said, well, why do you need to know where I'm really from? I'm like, because I want to help you get the right area and the right school for your children. There'll always be, you can match as to why you want to know. So I think it's important that you ask those kind of questions. And of course, look, if you find that difficult, go on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, how should I ask this client more about this? And
In
I'm sure,
alignment with the rules. So some of
yeah.
that comes from there being specific regulations around the real estate
Okay.
industry in different countries. So I love what you're saying. I think there's a way to
Okay.
combine what you're saying with the rules
Yep.
that need to be followed in each area. And I love that you're sharing the what's in it for them and the benefit of why you're asking. That's super important.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that 100% people can figure out how can I ask enough questions such that I'm truly serving them at the level they need to be
Yeah.
served and communicate with them around that. That's so good.
And Saundra, look, to make it even easier on people, that's not the rules in Dubai as such, meaning that if you have a client that wants to move to Dubai, but you don't want to ask those questions, I'll ask.
But
Trust me. So
perfect.
there we go. Because you
Okay.
have to. So, and actually, it's really important because even things like if my clients are Indian, then a lot of Indians want a Vastu compliant house. I don't know if you know what Vastu
Yeah,
compliant
I have to face
is.
the direction. Yeah.
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 So that's really important that I do know they're Indian because I'm like one step ahead. Would you like a Vastu compliant house? Then they absolutely love you because you're listening to them. So you do have to understand where they're from. You really do. It factors in a lot.
I love that. It's a great suggestion to really dive into that deeper and not be too cautious that you don't understand them well. Okay, so tech talent and founders are moving fast. What cities in the world are becoming global magnets for AI and innovation since it's a big topic all over the whole world right
Yeah. Well, my goodness, this really is changing by the minute. AI is literally taking over, really, isn't it? And it's exciting. So, I mean, we all know Silicon Valley. There in the US. So Silicon Valley is pulling people to it because, people want the best talent and they'll just pay crazy money, as you've seen some of these larger companies paying literally millions of dollars for top talent. But then also here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, we are starting to pull in the talent because you've got to understand that, China is also on that AI race and people don't want to necessarily live in China. Then there's a lot of talent in India and people don't always want to live in India. So AI and anything to do with tech, if you want to be central in the world, well, guess where it is? It's here. We're central. So if you look at a map and you say there's US, there's China, and there's India where there's a lot of tech talent. UAE is right in the middle. It's a very Western country. It's very safe, tax-free, perfect, direct flights to the US. It's a no-brainer. And that essentially has really supported us just from a geographical point of view and because of who, we're only an hour and a half's flight to India. And, Bengaluru, as they say, is the hub of tech talent. So, look at, is it found like who's the CEO of Google? I can see his face. Is it Sanjay? He's from India, he's running Google. So there's a lot more Indian talent coming and that's why it's a great location here in the UAE. And then, what I was saying earlier to Saundra is that there's now a race for data centers because this AI is becoming, it's doubling its power and its knowledge. I think it's every 3 to 5 days. And every time it doubles, it needs more power. And the power is coming from data centers. And we don't have enough energy in this world to run these data centers. So then it's becoming a race that which countries are buying up the most land to build the data centers so that those countries are going to have an advantage because they're going to have more AI capability and then they'll be able to do things faster and be more profitable and be more successful, etc., etc. Okay. I'm trying to sum it all up. So then, you need to look at, well, where are the countries that are building the largest data centers? And you'll see, Donald Trump for you in the USA is building fast as he can, but he's not fast enough. China's way ahead. I mean, China is like completely covered mountains with solar panels for energy. The UAE has already sort of partnered as well up with the likes of Elon Musk, etc., for data centers. And now they're looking at space centers, like out in space, because we just need more. So, the tech hubs and data center locations are a massive factor for us in real estate because it's driving talent to these hubs of the world, and talent needs to live somewhere and they're going to have money. So they're going to be very good real estate clients. So, as you're watching this chat between Saundra and I, make a note because it's probably triggering in your head, oh my God, I've got that client that's like, that client would definitely be a typical client for this, or the client with, Saundra was talking with Lucy about AI education. I have a couple of clients that would be all over that. So this is the whole point of a conversation like this, right? Isn't it, Saundra? To really help people.
Is one of the things that just stood out to me around this topic is I don't think people invest long enough in their conversations, whether it's the first time that they're serving a client or whether it's the 10th time that they're helping them, to always spend enough time to ask specifically where they're currently working and what their occupation is.
Yeah.
And I know we're focusing in on AI as an occupation and as a reason to move for life experiences for your career, etc. And there's so much gold in just making sure that you invest long enough to understand that about any person that you're serving, what their current career is, what their future career is, even though you don't typically handle the lending component of it, which is something that's common here, as you know, Lucy. You still need to know that about them because
Absolutely.
it helps you get in front of the people that they know, and it also helps you understand how to serve them best. So I just love the reminder that this is giving around that.
Yeah. And Saundra, there's a couple of things that people could do directly from this, me included as well. One of the things when you were coaching me, I remember we were always trying to like cut my database and get it better quality and like not so big. So I am cutting all the time names that are just, I've not had conversations and they just don't get back to you. But now it goes another level because now I'm sitting here as I'm talking to you and I'm thinking, I need to actually go back and have conversation with all these clients about what they're doing in business because the fact is they're all going to be doing something now with AI. And if they're not, they're going to be thinking about it. And that's another conversation. So that's a great way to,
Yeah.
connect again, reconnect AI. We've just had a great presentation about AI and global real estate. And it just made me think I need to pick up the phone to you, John. Let's have a chat. Where are you at with AI? How's your business going? Something like that.
Absolutely. And even if people are not in it professionally, it can help them personally, whatever. I think there are a
Yeah.
lot of people that are afraid of it and run away from it. So I love that you're bringing this up specifically in this conversation. And whenever people don't believe it has anything to do with what they're helping people with, it absolutely does. And if you get
Yeah.
ahead of people understanding it instead of running away from the fear of it, it will set you apart.
Absolutely. I
So
mean, look, I could actually talk on this subject for longer, so maybe
I
we have to
know
do we could
we
do
will.
another chat
We
about
will.
this because there's
We will.
more.
So I know that remote work actually changed everything, and you just shared some of the hubs and the data centers and all of that. What are people looking for in their homes right now? Because that's a massive opportunity for any global advisor. If they're
Yeah.
thinking about if people used to have to go in the office all the time and now they don't, what are the different things that people are looking for in their homes all over the world compared to what they were before?
Actually, I was just about to go on to this as well. So essentially, our lifestyles have changed so radically since COVID and now AI that I don't believe anyone can sit still and not pretend the world's changed, right? And it's changed twice now in the last 4, 5 years. Essentially, now it's not about proximity to the office because I don't know about you, I don't necessarily always work in the office anyway. I'm at home or in a cafe or I'm with clients, more importantly. And so I just need to actually be more central to the region I cover, which is nothing to do with being by the office area. Okay. Second is now you spend more time at home, you've got your children or your family, and you want outside space. So, people that are certainly coming here to Dubai are coming here for a better lifestyle. They're not moving to move down. You don't move down in life, especially if you go overseas. You go overseas for a better opportunity, right? So that means they're going to probably look for bigger space. They're probably going to live look definitely for amenities like, is there a shared swimming? Don't forget we're in the desert here. So when I talk about swimming pool, so, community swimming pools, community parks, cycling tracks. People are also looking for proximity to beaches and the ocean or lagoons they can swim in. So these are massive factors that I've really had to, delve into when I'm talking to my clients and I'm selling areas which today might seem a little bit further out of the city, but in the future will be the prime property where they will literally 200, I'm not exaggerating, X their property price. So, I am educating clients on the future of Dubai, and I think it's very important for everyone watching to be educating on the future of your area and your city and how people's lives are going to change. I mean, look, let's take this one step further just to blast you for a minute, blow your minds. But think about it. In like 4 or 5 years, you probably won't definitely be driving. It'll be self-driven cars. Your kids will probably have an AI tutor from home. They might not even be in school anymore. So then you're going to have a driver. You don't need to drive. And even if you do, it doesn't matter if it's 6 hours in the car because you've been driven. So you can work. So you don't care where you live. So then you're going to find a location that's nicer and bigger, more green areas, nicer facilities. So I'm already, shall I say, what's the word? I'm sharing this vision with my clients when I'm talking about where they should be buying a family home because I'm already telling them this is where you want. So I sold a property right now that's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like it is nowhere, but it's going to be 25 minutes from the new Disneyland that is going to be in Abu Dhabi in 10 years. And that Disneyland will be nothing like the Disneylands you've seen in the US. It will blow your minds. It'd be just another level because I know anything the UAE does is always another level. So that house they've bought, which is not ready for 4 years, which is on the beachfront, it is just a project that's not even built yet. They're going to do so well in the future because they got in early. Imagine getting in early in Florida before Disney World. I don't know however long it was built. That's essentially what I'm doing here sometimes for clients.
I love that. I love that you're a visionary leader, and I would challenge everyone listening to this to think about how they can be visionary in explaining the experience, especially if a family is planning to live somewhere for a long period of time. What does
Yeah.
the long-term plan look like? What could that
Yeah.
experience look like? And really painting that future for them in a way
Yeah.
that is exciting for where they're going.
And I want to just, sorry, Saundra, just to add the wellness. I forgot the wellness and the health, but that's
That's where I
actually,
was going next.
yeah,
Yes.
it's really, really important that nowadays, we're all aware that like longevity is very, very close by around the corner. We can live a lot longer. You mean, and that's exciting. And so people now want to look after their health. They want the facilities, but also, if people are moving overseas, the likelihood is they have money. They want to pay for better healthcare. And I know, am I right in saying that not all stem cell treatment is even FDA approved yet in the US? So people go to Costa Rica, right? So they seek stem cell like rejuvenation outside of the US. I don't think it's approved everywhere. So in
It
that
is,
same way,
they go to different places for all different things that they need help
that
with, health-wise. Yes.
yeah, but so people are traveling to countries and living overseas because of wellness. You've got really good medical facilities in KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And then, like here in Dubai, you've got some of the top hospitals in the world, including the Cleveland Clinic, and the Mayo Clinic, that obviously are very well known in the US. So you don't have to be in your own country to receive the best healthcare in the world, and that's becoming more and more important.
That's what I was going to ask you. So, if you had to think about the whole world and all the countries that you're familiar with, what are the places that lead to longevity, wellness, and medical tourism? Like, what are all the places that
Yeah.
people heavily consider for that?
For medical tourism, I know it's Malaysia because it's very, very good and it's much cheaper. The UAE is also up there. It's definitely not as cheap, but it's very, very good. I mean, and then, other places for healthcare. I mean, if you go private, there's all sorts of different areas. You can go to Switzerland as well. You've also got some of the countries in Europe do some really good. I think in the south of France, there's some good private clinics. But yeah, it's very dependent on the net worth of the client.
And the need, right? What
And
they
the
need.
need.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then what I was also going to add is that what I'm starting to see, and this is really new, by the way, this is only this year. I'm now seeing an not upscale, what's the word? I'm seeing a rise in
An
wellness
uptick.
communities. Yes. So there are more wellness communities being built. What I mean by that is communities of apartment buildings to purchase or villas to purchase, but it's on a wellness island. Imagine. So this is for the high net worths and wealthier, but they will pay because ultimately, what is the one thing at the moment until longevity comes in, the one thing you can't pay for, no matter how rich you are, is your health. And that's fast changing, but they want to be at the forefront of that when it does change.
That's such a fascinating idea. I love that they're
Mhm.
actually just creating their own little healthy area specifically around thinking about growing food and making sure that the way that it's grown is healthy because that's a
Yeah.
big contributor to people's health all
Yep.
over the world.
Absolutely. No, it's very
Uh,
important.
I know that global conflicts shape migration. What is going on right now related to that, and where are people moving to from the countries that are having global conflict?
Yeah, I mean, there's global conflict and there's global conflict. And I think, we need to sort of talk about perhaps how it affects us in real estate as well. So, for example, those that are leaving the Russia and Ukraine situation. So, a lot of the Russians, I'll tell you the countries they're moving to, and that is here in the UAE, Cyprus, Turkey, Montenegro, and Kazakhstan. So that's where you'll find the Russians moving to. The Ukrainians, on the other half, they are moving to Poland, Germany, and the Czech Republic. So it's very different. I've heard through a colleague of mine in Cyprus that there's a lot of Israelis now moving across the sea to Cyprus, particularly Limassol. And then, there's obviously a lot more crisis countries around the world, but those population movements are, I would say, probably not moving to buy real estate that we would be talking about as such. So I would say those are the main ones. And then, you can see Chinese, for example, moving to Vietnam and the Philippines, but not really because of any conflict. That's more just because of geopolitics more than anything and political instability or different views. I mean, we can talk about the US here where, we're not going to get political, but there are some people that obviously are now choosing to exit the USA and even some giving up the US passport for Caribbean citizenship or other citizenships, European, etc. And so, yeah, I mean, I am seeing it more and more, and it's fascinating, there's more and more people that are just simply saying, I want to have two or three passports. I don't want to have one passport anymore.
Yes, I mean, we've had that. I mean, even people that are on this call right now have had that thought and conversation for themselves.
Yep.
So that's so interesting to
Yep.
hear how common it is right now. I know that laws change markets. What are the biggest global real estate legal updates for 2025 that people need to understand that you're aware of?
Yeah, so this one is quite sensitive, and I think I'm just going to be a bit generic here saying this online, but I mean, you have to be aware. Let's say the most common one are the Airbnb laws. For example, I'm aware that, that Spain is is becoming more and more anti-Airbnb every day. I think Portugal has stopped Airbnbs in some of its major cities. And then, of course, for global migration, there are a lot of countries that did promise a residency visa and then that's now been revoked or stopped. So I believe that's happened in Portugal, for example. So, you just got to be aware. And it's funny because I get a lot of clients asking me, can I get a golden visa to live in the UAE? And you can get a golden visa. And they're like, yeah, but is that one going to also be revoked and cancelled? And I'm like, no way, because this leadership literally wants to be the number one in the world. And there's nothing they won't do to, well, there is, of course. I mean, they're doing it with integrity. They're very good leadership, but there's nothing they won't do to get there in a sense of being a really effective, visionary leadership that is about, helping you and I, foreigners, locals. There's so many incentives no matter who you are, where you come from, and it's exciting to be around that. That's why I choose to be here. And of course, it's even more exciting when my clients are also choosing to be here for the same reasons I am. So it's a great energy working with clients in real estate here.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know that we've talked before about crypto buyers.
Mm.
So I'm curious, We have that a little bit in the United States, and yet it's far more common globally, I believe. So, who are they and what markets are they choosing to invest in from your perspective?
Yeah, do you know, it's funny because the crypto buyers have died down a bit. It was more crypto for me in the real estate world was more last year and the year before. It was 23, 24. This year it's gone very quiet. But yeah, I mean, I had, for example, I had a Polish client that bought a house with me fully with crypto. And he had moved from Poland to reside in Malta and then was buying it with crypto. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in the world with crypto because it's just a code online on the blockchain. And then he moved here to the UAE and now he has residency. So, but there are clients all over the world and they are choosing to purchase real estate through crypto and we can do that. We can do transactions like that here in the UAE. You've also got countries that are starting to heavily regulate how much money you can take out of the country. I mean, look, if we go back 25 years, and I remember traveling in China, I mean, it really was in my face that when I was exiting China, and this was 25 years ago, before anything was online, before social media or mobile phones, right? I remember them asking to see in my wallet how much cash I was leaving the country with at the airport. Because they're like, you can't take our cash out of the country. So that was 25 years ago. So these governments and countries, they're always regulating and wanting to know how much of their money is leaving the country. And with crypto, it means people can do it without having to necessarily declare it. Now, is that correct? Is it legal? No. There are a lot of transactions happening. And I think what's also happened, which is why I'm saying I don't see as many, is because we here in the UAE got much more heavily regulated in the last 12 months. And we now have to have, like, at Keller Williams, all real estate agencies, we have to have a KYC form that we fill out with every client, which is know your client. Then they have to do an anti-money laundering document and they have to state where the source of their money is. So even if it's crypto, it has to state that. So that's probably why I haven't seen transactions in crypto in the last 12 months because I make them aware they're going to have to sign this document.
Well,
That's
also
crazy.
many of the forms of it have decreased in value drastically over the past year or two.
Oh
I've seen
yeah.
lots of people that
Yeah.
were pro crypto investments that now are not at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
People, yeah, the crypto world has changed a little bit, but it's exciting times still. I'm not
yeah.
getting out just yet.
For someone that's listening who feels a pull toward a more global life, what's their first step? And then what are the common misconceptions about moving abroad or investing internationally?
Ooh, that's a good question. I might have to ask you to repeat that. Say that one again for me.
So it's two questions. One
Yeah.
is for someone that is feeling a pull towards a more global life, what is the very first
Yeah.
step they should take?
Okay.
Obviously,
Oh,
reaching out to their real estate agent, but what's, in your opinion, what's the very first step? And then secondly, what are the biggest misconceptions about moving abroad or investing internationally?
yeah, well, I mean, do you know what? It goes back to what I said before. I think if someone's going to move overseas, I would have to understand their motivations. So I would be asking a lot of questions out of curiosity. Saundra, why do you want to move overseas? Where do you like, what's important to you in your life? Tell me more, if you want to be within 2 hours time zone. I would say time zones definitely feature a lot in people's choices of where they move. And that's actually, to be honest, we don't have a lot of American Canadian clients in the UAE because the time zone is so different. Like right now, I'm 10 hours ahead of you. So it's, nearly 7:30 in the evening. Now imagine you're living over here and you want to be able to call close family and friends or run a business in two different countries. The time zone is a massive factor. So I would say be aware of your time zones. How often do you need to travel with your job, or are you going to choose to travel? Is the language important to you? Do you speak other languages? And then, in terms of, well, what's your motivation for going? Do you want a better opportunity in work? Well, what industry are you in? Well, if you're in logistics, well, which countries are the best countries for logistics in the world? Or, that might be Singapore, it might be UAE, funnily enough. But there'll be a reason, if you're into wine, you're probably not going to come to the UAE for wine. You're probably going to go to south of France or South Africa or Argentina. So there's always personal reasons as to where you're going to choose. And then in terms of, what would make someone buy overseas? Well, it's very simple. Why would you put all your money in one government and one currency? That is literally taking such a massive risk. And I truly believe, and I get this from Gary Keller, that you don't know what you don't know. So you were born in the US, you know the US, does not mean it's the best place for your money. And oftentimes you have to look outside the box. And the beauty, not everybody, I don't know if everybody in this group is from Keller Williams, but wherever we're from, whichever agency, we have got to be global in 2025. I don't believe you can be selling real estate if you're not global. Even if you're selling your home patch, you are going to have foreigners that are your clients. 100%.
Yes,
Okay,
I
we're in
firmly believe that every single person who makes it a priority to be knowledgeable about this, the people who have chosen to invest time learning this and how to support people from all different places and help them
yeah,
move and migrate to different places, those are going to be the people that have long-term business with really great clients.
absolutely. You couldn't have said it better, Saundra.
Yes. Okay, well, I would love to just make sure that we have a couple of minutes for the people that invested their time with us today to ask you any questions and come off mute and either share something that was helpful for them or to ask you questions. So now is your time to ask any questions or share with Lucy what was most helpful for you to hear today.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't look my best right now. It's still super
Mhm.
cold. First off, I want to say, Lucy, you sound incredibly knowledgeable. I perform here in Charlotte, in the Charlotte area, as a relocation expert. So I'm the first point of contact for many people that are moving into Charlotte. And it was really, really nice to hear you. And now I aim to sound as knowledgeable as you. I think that was amazing. We've actually considered moving into into your area. It's definitely one of those. I'm not gonna say culture. I'm gonna say it's an environment that I think everyone should aim for, just because there really is it really does offer so much. Unfortunately, it is not within reach for everyone,
Mhm.
but I think a really cool thing that we could do is kind of like share this kind of information to people so that they have like a wider view of the world, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
what would you suggest? How would you suggest introducing Dubai as an option to our sphere, our network? Probably something that we could share. I feel like just grabbing one of your YouTube videos and sharing it. That might be the best option, even if it's not just that. So, for example, I've lived in other countries myself,
Okay.
and people come and ask me, what would you do to if I wanted to move to that country? I also think that maybe there's something we can do as agents to kind of like showcase or highlight that transition. How would you suggest going about that?
Well, I mean, a really good question, Pamela, and I love that you're doing relocations. So that's a very exciting position to be in because you're kind of like the door in and out for clients. So, they're going to come to you first, which is amazing. I would say that all of us, and I can't iterate this enough, Sandra knows me so well now, we need to be talking about the fact that, again, Sandra, remind me if I'm out of place here, but we're not just all Keller Williams on this call, right? Or are we?
Correct.
No.
No.
Okay. So, but we all need to be talking about the fact that we don't just serve our city, even our state, even our country.
100%. Yeah,
We serve the world. And we are a
correct.
global organization, or whichever organization you are with, you are a global organization and you have a you in another country that is as, same standards and can help. And I think that's where it starts. Everyone gets too complex
And
with,
no
let me
one knows. No one
and
knows
nobody
without you
just
telling
knows
them.
that we're in these countries to start with. So it starts really basic. If you should be on Instagram, everyone should be on Instagram these days, but it just starts with, for example, if you could go through all of your clients that you know and check out their Instagrams or just be talking to them. Let's give an example of Dubai because it's where I know best at the moment. So, if you know that any of your clients have visited Dubai in the last 12 months, I would be calling them to have a conversation. What did you think of Dubai? What did you love? And I'm absolutely sure that from just those couple of questions, they'll start coming back saying, oh my God, la, 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 la. I could go back. And then you don't know where that conversation's going to start. That's the best way. Just make people aware that we're in these countries and that we can help and that you should diversify. No one tells you to put all your money in real estate, right? People put their money in bonds and they put it in crypto and they put it in gold and they put it in silver. So why would you only buy real estate in one like, nominate like in
Major.
one country of the world. Why would you not buy real estate in another? So, and there's different ways of doing real estate. You don't have to buy real estate and you have to have it managed by someone else. You can buy real estate and wait for it to appreciate and then sell it. You know, there's many different options like that. So it's getting into those rooms and having those conversations. And Saundra knows I'm here, and if you think it's appropriate, we can perhaps do another chat on why I would be talking to every client about, for example, global real estate and UAE as an example. Because every
Mhm.
nationality that comes here, trust me, there's no one that says I'm not going to come back. No one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I feel like maybe we should just get out of our heads and um be open to ourselves being open to having those conversations, right?
Absolutely. And you
Yeah.
don't need to know as much as you think you need to know. You just need to know that you are the link to the referral.
To someone who
Hmm.
So,
is an expert.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for
that
sure.
is a member of your team that will take as great or better care of them than you do. And that's the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
confidence piece.
By
Hmm.
the way,
No, definitely.
funny enough, I've got a Keller Williams agent in tomorrow from Atlanta who is meeting me and coming round to see 2 or 3 properties with me. She gets to see my new house.
I'm coming to see that house soon.
That
By the way,
sounds
you're only
awesome.
allowed to see my house if you bring me a referral client.
Done. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it,
Not
your
at
time
all,
and all of
Pamela.
your input.
Nice to
Thank you.
meet you.
Trinette, do you have any questions or any statements?
Well, I
Hello.
I thoroughly enjoyed. Hi, Lucy. Hi,
Hi, Trinette.
and Sandra. I enjoyed the conversation. As Sandra knows, I am trying to break into the international.
You are doing it.
I am
Amazing.
doing it. I currently have a client that is purchasing in Mexico. We're
Well, there
looking
you go.
to
You're global.
close in January, possibly, if things stay on track. So, and one of the things she wanted to do was to start buying international properties. And
Oh,
one of the first things she asked, she's like, "Where do I start?" And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute." It was all new to me because it's my first opportunity to do
okay.
international or global real estate.
Yeah.
It's good to hear, and now that I know Dubai is definitely on the list, so I will hope to come out and see and possibly look at some properties. But you touched on a few different things, and I actually was typing to make a Facebook post off of some of the things that you mentioned, as far as like the UAE becoming a central hub for a lot of the tech folks between China, India, and the US. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who were in the UAE for military purposes or whatever the case may be, and they love the area, but I did not know about the tech part of it
Mm,
as far as it becoming a central hub. So that is definitely good to know. Talking about how AI is, globally becoming so important and everything. So those things are good to know. And especially when you were talking about, I really do try to get to know my clients more in depth, but the way that you do it, as far as knowing what it's going to take for the area that they need to move and how it's going to service them better. That's
yeah.
very helpful and good to know. So I appreciate the conversation.
Not at
Appreciate the
all. Thank
information.
you. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And good luck with your deal in Mexico. And, to go back to that point when, you obviously, this is your first international deal and hoping that it goes through. I'm sure it will. But
Hmm.
you said, you didn't know where to start when she said, where should I start globally? And I would literally go back to, I think now I'll say it for the third time, so it really goes in for everybody watching. And that is because I am a curious person, I'll always ask why. So
Hmm.
why, and why? So why do you want to buy global? What is taking you out of the US? And no, not in a sort of argumentative way, but just I'm curious. Tell me more. I want to help you, but I need to know more about you. So what do you do in life? Have you got family overseas? Were you brought up overseas? Do you speak another language? Do you have, were you born somewhere else? So there'll be a reason. There'll definitely be a reason. Yeah.
Yes, for her, she's trying to expand her investment portfolio. So
Okay.
all of these properties and all of the locations that we're looking at is strictly for Airbnb investments. And just like you mentioned before, how Portugal and Spain are changing their regulations on Airbnbs. That's important to know because those are
Yeah,
areas that
yeah,
I know that I possibly shouldn't suggest as far as we start looking. And I have to get a little bit
yeah,
more in depth with the countries they're still allowing and what does that look like if she does want to sell in a couple of years? Is it more taxed? How does that look? What is she
yeah.
going to be able to do to sell that in 5 years if that's what she chooses to do or continue Airbnb? So those are the things that I'm really trying to keep on top of. And
Okay.
and know. So as she asks, okay, where's the next location? I'll be like, well,
Yeah,
we can't
UAE.
we can't
You
look
know,
here.
Trenette, one thing I would say is don't get too into the detail of the laws because it will just block up your head and that's not what you do best, right? Because that's not your country. So what I would say is that's why you have referral partners. I
Mm,
am never going to learn the US laws for real estate. I'm just going to come to you guys, right?
okay.
So in the same way, never think I've got to know all the laws of the UAE before I even tell her about the UAE.
Okay.
That's not what a referral is. The whole point of referral is it's basically passive income. You just refer it, you carry on with your daily life, and guess what? You just suddenly get a message from me one day saying, guess what, Trinette? You get a global a fee because we just closed on your client. And your client's happy because you put them in touch with someone that knows what they're doing. So everybody's happy.
Thank you. That's great advice, and I will make
Yeah.
sure I follow it.
Amazing.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone who's
Saundra.
here. I'm so excited for this. And everyone here knows we're going to have two of these conversations a year inside the Legacy Collaborative. This
Yeah.
was your bonus because next year, these global conversations are only going to be a part of a paid partnership with the Legacy Collaborative. So, all of you who chose to show up today just got a special treat. And thankfully, both of the two ladies who were just speaking are already elite clients. So you will not be paying anything extra for these to be included for you.
Amazing. Love it. Oh, well, congratulations. Thank you for showing up.
Have a great rest of your day,
Amazing.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Happy Christmas to you
Thank
all. Take care. Bye.
you.